Are you ready for rapid fire?
Oh, baby. Yeah, I'm ready for rapid fire. Heck yeah. Let's do it.
Let's go. Let's go.
Game day rapid fire.
Riley Leonard has turned the corner with his passing game.
Sell. I haven't seen it yet. I've seen bits and pieces. I need to see him put it all together. So it is an absolute sell for me right now. Now, it may be a buy after this game once we see him do the short and the long, put it together. But right now, no, it's a sell for me.
It's a sell for me as well. We saw him start to turn the corner.
Yes,
last
agreed.
week.
Agreed.
There's still much more to go because it's not just, hey, let's hit a deep pass to Bo Collins and hey, let's throw one up and let's get a pass interference call here. You know, as long as you're getting pass interference calls, obviously that's
a positive.
That's a net positive. Yeah. Yes. But you want to start completing more of those, and the layups that you mentioned earlier, that to me is the final piece to the package as well, especially for a guy who is as mobile as he is, you know, like those little sprint out last week. And probably not the easiest throw in the world to make, but at the same time, you know, just we've said before, they've got to find him more layups than like just what they tried last week. Like more screen pass, you know, more just something short over the middle, you know, those kind of things. They don't all have to be bubble screens and stuff like that. But he has started to, so it's a sell for me as well. Like this could be a big coming out type party for Riley Leonard if he's able to put some things together this weekend.
I'm hoping. I'm hoping. I will just say that.
I mean, Mike Denbrock said at the start of the season that look at week 6 and 7. You know, I don't know if he was necessarily meaning specifically week 6 and 7, but you know, look, 4 games in the books. We're coming to week 5 right now. So we're getting close. What, you know, his point was the middle of the season. We're getting closer to the middle of the season. And we've seen Riley Leonard's game build now a little bit. So can we see it build even more against probably the second best defense they've played this year? Mm-hmm. Some might even say the best defense, depending on, you know, how you look at it.
I mean, well, you know, all of a sudden, you know, Texas A&M is you know, a doorstop now that everybody, you know, now that Notre Dame
beat them, right?
Yeah. So their defense is garbage because Notre Dame beat them. So that's the argument for Louisville being a better defense. They're not a better defense. They're the second best defense on the schedule, I want to say.
I think
so. That's still a challenge. That's still a massive challenge. But I'm sorry, they're not the best defense.
So we've talked about Devyn Ford and Aneyas Williams seeing the bulk of the third down snaps for the Irish this season because they have the roles of third down backs and are, in theory anyway, the better blockers. So the other side of it is, my question for you, when you're a team like Notre Dame and you've got a playmaker like Jeremiyah Love, is it a good idea to be taking him off the field on such an important down like third down so often?
Not as much as they do. I mean, I understand that there's all these different roles and you want to kind of spread out those roles. And you know, if you're Dylan McCullough and you want to do all these different things and get as many guys involved, blah, 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 blah. Get it. Got it. But Jeremiyah Love is your most dynamic player in the backfield. And to not have him on the field, like, look, I get if you want to max protect or something like that and you want to keep guys in to protect, maybe that's not a time when you want to have him in there. Cool, I get it. But I also wouldn't mind having him as an outlet if stuff breaks down.
Right.
You know, I mean, put the ball in his hands. He may be able to pick up that third down on accident, basically, if the play that you designed doesn't work out the way you wanted it to work out. So I think in moderation, having those other guys out there on third down makes sense. But I also think you need to have Jeremiyah Love out there as well.
I mean, he has to be accounted for on every snap.
Exactly.
That's the kind of player he is. And, you know, again, when you've got him and Riley Leonard out there together, that's 2 guys who have to be accounted for on every snap. I'm sorry, but Devyn Ford and Aneyas Williams don't fit into that category. You know, the reason they're out there is for blocking. And if you go back and look at the Pro Football Focus stuff, Devyn Ford's blocking grades haven't even been that great this year, you know? So like, maybe that's why we're starting to see more of Williams out there, but still, Jeremiyah Love, as Marcus Freeman said, it's not rocket science. Like, he's the guy you've got to find. The ball has to be in his hands more often. We had that conversation earlier this week. I don't think that when you've lacked consistency making big dynamic plays, with the exception of the three guys, Leonard, Price, and Love, two of those three have to be on the field on every play. On next to every, almost every play. I'd say 95% of the time.
Yeah. I mean, so you either need to get those guys back up to par on blocking, or you need to figure out how differently to use them to gain an advantage on third down.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
Because again, third down is the most important down.
Oh yeah.
It's the most important down of a series. Third down, is the defense going to get off the field? Is the offense going to stay on the field? And
right.
If Jeremiyah Love, and again, you can throw Price into the mix as well, but mostly Jeremiyah Love. If Love is on the field on third down, you're giving your team a better chance to convert that third down.
Right. Agreed.
Case closed.
As long as you're not just handing it to them up the middle.
Right. Creatively finding different ways to get
there. You go.
But whether it's draw plays or
whatever,
whatever it happens to be. So Notre Dame Louisville, of course, is going to be televised on the Peacock streaming app. My question to you, if you could only do one of these two things: one, put the game on NBC instead of Peacock, or two, swap it out with Florida State as the primetime home game, which would you choose?
At this point, obviously, revisionist history is always the best, right? Or hindsight is 20/20, whatever cliche you want to use. You got to swap it out for the primetime game, because right now Florida State is a dumpster fire. And the only good thing about Florida State being a dumpster fire is that the post-game show might not be quite as long since it's a night game. But if you want the best opponent at night, you got to put Louisville there.
Well, and that is part of the question. Do you want the best opponent at night? I would say, because I've kind of gone back and forth on this as well, I would put it on NBC just because everyone is a lot happier when the game is actually on NBC as opposed to the streaming app. I don't know how many people we've heard from this week. I'm not paying for that Peacock. It's like, get the subscription. It's $7 and then you cancel it right away. It's not
right,
but that's a different story. Do you really want to, we were talking about these teams have only played 4 previous times. Then you've got what happened down there last year and kind of the chippiness and the bitterness. Like, do you want to give Louisville the satisfaction of, sort of like having the cachet of being the Notre Dame's primetime home game? Like,
it's a good question. I never really looked at it that way, to be perfectly honest with you. Never looked at it that way. So,
because I understand exactly what you're saying, and a lot of people would say the same thing. Louisville is obviously the better team right now than Florida State, so it just makes sense. Well, that should be the primetime game. But to me, it's like, don't give Louisville the satisfaction,
I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I'm going to switch my answer. What do you think about that?
What's more likely, Notre Dame is a 1-loss team or they lose at least 3 games?
I think what's more likely is that they are a 1-loss team. That's more likely. I don't see them losing 3 more games. That means they're a 4-loss team. I don't see that being the case.
3 loss total. Not.
Oh, okay.
Not
I still don't see that being
not 3 more. Sorry. So either 1 loss or they lose 2 more.
If they go out and let's just lay a complete egg on Saturday against Louisville, maybe I change my answer on this.
Yeah.
But I just have a hard time seeing them losing 3 games. I just do.
This is a much tougher question than it should be.
I know.
When you sit and think about it, because of all the things that we've talked about in this show with consistency and peaks and valleys and all those different things. My gut instinct says it's much more likely that Notre Dame ends up with just 1 loss as opposed to losing 2 more games, which would make them a 3-loss team at the end of the season. But
It wouldn't surprise me.
Like even if they win this game and they win this game against Louisville convincingly, then what's the question going to be? Well, Stanford knocked him off 2 years ago. Like who's to say? You know what I mean? Like, and that's what's distressing about this question. I'm going to go with they're more likely to be a one-loss team, but it just stays in the back of my mind. Like
if
what is this team going to be the rest of the year?
Sean, if they win this game, are you feeling a lot better about it?
At least in the moment.
Okay, that's fair.
But then we'll get here, again, a week from Monday when we start Stanford week and we have the conversation all over again. But I'm feeling a lot better. But look, we thought that it meant something to beat Texas A&M, but then they turned around and Northern Illinois happened.
Yeah, it did.
So
it certainly did.
Fill in the blank. A 2-loss September for Notre Dame would be blank.
It would be devastating to what you wanted to accomplish this year as the Notre Dame team. I mean, if their 2 losses are in September, I mean, you still got an outside chance of getting into the playoff. And by outside chance, I mean, you're going to need some help by some other teams.
I thought we weren't allowed to talk about playoff anymore.
We're not. But you're talking about losses. So I don't have a choice.
Okay.
But a 2-loss September, man, that is extremely disappointing for what we thought this team was supposed to be this year. Extremely disappointing.
It'd be disastrous is what it would be. And it would and totally unthinkable as well coming into this season with everything we thought about this team and the head coach, the quarterback, the coordinators, go on down the line, everything that we thought. 2 losses in September, 2 losses, period, I think would be a disastrous season for Notre Dame with the schedule that they had. And, again, with all the things that were aligned and that we thought they were. But if you lose 2 games in September's not even over, man, you talk about hot seat for Marcus. And I'm not trying to be negative, but it's but
you're not wrong though either.
This is where we are right now,
You're not wrong either.
So Louisville held Notre Dame to 44 rushing yards on 28 carries last year. Over under 1.5 Fighting Irish players who will have at least 44 rushing yards this week.
Over, and I feel fairly confident about that. I might have said over if you would have said 2.5.
I felt like 2.5 would be pushing it a little bit too far.
I know, but I just feel like I do think that the run game is going to be an emphasis in this game. And I think both running backs and Riley Leonard are going to be over 44. So I do think that that'll be the case.
Haynes King, the Georgia Tech quarterback, had 58 yards last week against Louisville. He was their only rusher who had over that total, 44 yards. Okay. Nobody else was able to top it just by, way of explanation. They had 98 total yards. I think it's going to be 2 as well. I think it's going to be at least, like you said, like obviously Price and Love and Leonard all have the ability to hit that number on just one carry. They're all home run threats. And I think that at least 2 of those 3 are going to do it, if not all 3. And I mean, if all 3 do it, you're looking at a really good day, obviously. For Notre Dame.
Agreed. I completely agree with that sentiment as well. But since you said 1.5, I'll just take the over.
It is over. We're both over.
Yep.
So since this is the Irish wear green game, that means fans are encouraged to wear green in the stands for the game Saturday afternoon. What percentage of the crowd do you think is going to have red on inside Notre Dame Stadium?
Maybe 20, maybe. And the reason I say that is because Louisville had to return some of their ticket allotment already.
Right.
So if they're not even selling out what Notre Dame gave them, I just don't see them really turning up in this game. I don't know, man. I don't think it's going to be that high.
See, and that's why,
Coach, how do you mentally prepare for a fan base and a team that's as hungry and ready to win at all costs as Louisville?
That's like I don't get, like they return tickets, but they're a hungry fan base ready to win at all costs, and they're going to invade Notre Dame Stadium. It's like if you're a team with red, coming to Notre Dame is like your dream. Like, like that. And Louisville's not that far away. It's what, 3 hours and 45-minute drive from,
it's not bad.
Right across the river in Kentucky, literally right across the river from Indiana in northern Kentucky. It basically sits the same kind of place like Notre Dame is related to Michigan up here at the top half of the state. So like I'm going to say 15% tops.
Okay.
I just because that's looking at the fact that they return tickets, like that said something to me right away. And I'm not counting the band either. Like the band doesn't count because the band gets in and all that.
Right.
Kind of
they
stuff.
don't need tickets.
Yeah. I'm talking about fans who need tickets throughout the stadium. What do you think it ended up with Ohio State last year? Because Notre Dame did they kind of went to all their countermeasures to keep Ohio State fans from invading. Like, do you think maybe 25%?
Yeah. It was a lot less than I had anticipated when I showed up that day.
Yeah.
And they were sprinkled throughout the stadium, I guess, but it was not as high as I thought. So yeah, I think 25 is probably a safe bet on that one.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a lot lower.
Yeah.
For Louisville.
Yeah, me too.
I guess we'll see. Maybe we could end up being surprised, but I think it's always a pretty telling early sign when the opposing fan base is returning tickets. Again, especially when you're that close. Like, look at the rest of the ACC. There aren't any ACC teams, I don't think, that are any closer to Louisville than obviously, I'm not saying Notre Dame is an ACC team. I'm just saying, like, does Louisville travel that well? And they are a basketball state. Like, are people really that fired up about their football? I'm sure in the city of Louisville itself, they're fired up down there. But, again, like going back to, would you want this a primetime game and all that, that's kind of the other side of it. Like, how much actual national attention does a game like this get?
Right. No, absolutely. I think that's accurate, man. They're not going to travel that well. They're not as fired up of a fan base as whoever that guy is thinks they are.
They're willing to win at all costs.
All costs, except the cost of a drive from Louisville to
driving a ticket. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, some game props. Riley Leonard's passing yards over under 160 and a half yards. Will he get to 161?
I mean, I think he will. I'm just not confident. Like, I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole in real life. Like, I feel like I want him to, but I don't know that he has to. I'm going to say under. I'm going to say under.
I will not wager on this.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to go over.
Oh, I love you, Sean Stiers.
This would be a season high for him. I think he's going to go over 160 yards.
Oh, I love it.
Against Louisville. I think he's going to make some plays in the passing game.
And Louisville wants to make plays in the passing game, big plays or whatever downfield, not going to happen, I don't think. I think Notre Dame makes a couple of plays downfield, and that could elevate his numbers a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. And again, find something, get Jeremiyah Love running.
Sure.
And let him catch the ball with a little bit of momentum and just go. I mean, for the most part, there's no reason that Louisville should fear playing Notre Dame man-to-man. And so if you can get Jeremiyah Love matched up on a linebacker, I would be licking my chops at that if you could find that matchup. Leonard's touchdown pass number is 1/2. So, the question is obviously, will he have a touchdown pass against Louisville?
Take the over, baby.
I think so as well.
Take the over
as well. Also, Riley Leonard's rushing yards, 57.5.
Man, that's high. I really like the 44 number a lot better. I was very confident in the 44 number. I'm not as confident in the 57.5 number. But since I took the under on passing, I'll take the over on rushing.
Okay. I'm going to go over on both, actually. I think he's going to be in that 60 to 70 yard rushing range. So I'll be over on his rushing number of 57.5 yards as well. Tyler Shuck for Louisville, 225.5 passing yards. Does he get to 226?
I mean, I think he could. I don't believe any quarterback so far against Notre Dame has even gotten to 200 yards. I think one of them, I think the Northern Illinois kid had 198, I want to say off the top of my head.
Sounds about right.
And so nobody has breached 200 yards yet. Now, is Louisville going to just throw the ball all day long? Is that their goal? Like, just mass it up? It's possible, but I'm going to take the under. I've got a lot of faith in Notre Dame's pass defense.
Yeah, it's interesting. Notre Dame has the number 6 pass efficiency defense in the nation. Shuck has the number 6 individual pass efficiency rating. So they are both number 6. It's strength on strength in this game. But I'm going to go over. I think that because I think that Notre Dame is really going to put the clamps on Louisville's running game. And so I think they're going to be throwing the ball quite a bit. So I'm going to go over for sure.
All right. I could see them racking up some yardage and not scoring though too.
Because then his other number, Shuck's touchdown pass number is 1.5.
Under. Notre Dame's giving up 9 points a game.
I think I know, but they also, this is probably the best, at least statistical offense that they've seen so far. But I'm going to go under as well. I think he has 1, but I don't think he's going to get 2. Interesting receiving. I'm surprised they even made this a line. Jeremiyah Love's receiving yards over under 8.5 yards.
That's one catch to over.
But the question is, I guess, does he get to 1 catch? Because
well, fair. But yeah, yes, over. Because
I'm trying to see what Love has right now. I know he doesn't have a ton of receptions. Let's see. 6 for 40.5. So basically that's not even, I mean, that's above his average even. 8.5. Again, I feel like Jeremiyah Love has got to be used as a weapon in that part of the offense. Whether or not that actually happens, I don't know. But come on, he's got to go over 8.5 yards, right? How about his rushing number? 68.5 yards.
Ooh. I'm going to take the over because I think it has to be over for them to win, and I think they're going to win. So I'll take the over.
I'm going to go over as well. And I agree with your rationale. I mean, we're leading to the prediction.
Yeah.
Probably not going to be a huge shock who we're going to predict, but
it's not.
But yeah, I mean, like we were saying earlier, we both feel like Notre Dame's going to have at least 2 rushers over that 44-yard mark that the whole team had last year. And I just feel like this is just such a much more dynamic kind of back that Louisville's going to have to try to attack if they're going to, and again, coupled with the quarterback and everything else. How about Bo Collins, 38.5 receiving yards?
Well, you're feeling like Riley Leonard's going to have a big game throwing the ball, so I think that's one of his favorite targets. So I'll take the over.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to have at least 5 receptions in this game, even though that's not a prop. If he has 5, I mean, he's going to be over fairly easily, I think. Unless somebody else, unless Jaden Greathouse or Mitchell Evans or somebody finally emerges and kind of steals some of those yards away, I've got to go with Bo Collins. He's been the go-to guy so far. And then finally, Ja'Cory Brooks, the Alabama transfer for Louisville, his receiving yard number is 71.5 yards.
Under. I don't think there's no – look at what this defense has done to stud receivers.
Yeah.
They don't get numbers, and he's not going to either.
That's right. I think they're going to be locked in. They're going to be ready to go against Ja'Cory Brooks. He's going to be significant part of the game plan, and I think it's going to be under as well. Now, somebody else might be the beneficiary of that. I don't see somebody having a monster game by any means, but I don't think Ja'Cory Brooks
It's a lot of yards for a receiver, for one guy. I don't see it.
And like you said, especially like look at the 2 games against Ohio State with NFL, NFL draft picks out there. They didn't do it. So why should you think Ja'Cory Brooks is going to do it? Okay, so the game itself, Notre Dame's a 6.5-point favorite. The point total for the game, 46.5 is the over-under. What are we doing here? What's your prediction, Vince?
Well, I'm taking the -6.5 because I've kind of alluded to it all week long, and I will continue to allude to the fact that I think Notre Dame will be up for this game. I don't find it difficult to get up for a game like this. You got the alternate uniform, you got the revenge factor, you've got Marcus Freeman probably feels like a lot of people are breathing down his neck. I mean, you've got all these different factors. I don't see how this team is not fired up for this game. And I'm not saying Louisville's not going to be fired up for this game, but Notre Dame is better and should come into this game with a giwandous boulder on their shoulder, like a giant chip.
A giwandous boulder.
Giwandous. Okay. They've got, as they used to say in I Love Lucy, they got some splaining to do. Okay. They got some splaining to do. And so I think Notre Dame's going to come out and dominate in this game. I've got Notre Dame 31-13.
Vince, I got to get my honor back. That's what Notre Dame is playing for their honor this weekend. And I think they're going to do it as well. I think that we're going to see, if the first couple of home games have been lethargic, I think we're going to see a whole different kind of frenzy out there Saturday afternoon when Notre Dame hosts Louisville. I think that as you said, that game last year has put a massive chip on everyone's shoulders from the head coach on down.
Better have.
And I think we're going to see a different kind of focus. I think they're going to take a lot better care of the football this week than they did last week. And who knows, maybe even James Rendell will be a weapon in the punting game. Maybe somebody. That's one thing we didn't touch on. Special teams has got to get its stuff together this week.
No doubt about that. And we talked about earlier on in the season about how, these punts by Rendell are going to have to be better because there's going to be a game where field position is going to be super important. I think we're there. I think this is a game where field position could be super important. You want Louisville to have to go the length of the field every time they touch a football, right? And that's where the punter comes into play. So let's roll.
Yep. So I'm taking Notre Dame, given that 6.5 points. I'm under on the point total, though. I've got them winning 27-17 is my score. 27-17. Again, I think that they are going to look good. But I'm not. I mean, you've only got them scoring 4 more points.
No, I'm under too, based on my score, right? Because I had 31-13.
Okay.
And
so we're both on 44.
It's 44. So there you go. Taking the under.
Yep.
That's a high number.
I think so too, especially considering how Notre Dame games have gone. I don't know if I don't have my phone in here, so I can't look it up. I mean, for Notre Dame to be favored by 6.5 and for the point total to be 46.5, I think that is a little bit high number. So
they're expecting a Purdue outcome, I guess.
I don't know. Apparently so. Maybe it's more significant than we think that 4 games for Notre Dame, 3 for Louisville, that's what Vegas thinks of Louisville. I don't know.
I mean, I'm not 100% sold on Louisville, but they're still going to be a formidable opponent.
Sure.
So
that's going to do it for today. Vince, enjoyed it as always. We'll be out there at the game this weekend, Notre Dame and Louisville, and we will be back next week. Of course, it is a bye week for Notre Dame, but we will have shows all next week on our regular schedule. Both Brian and Vince and I think Trevor might stop in at least once next week, as well as Jesse continues to transition to his new gig. That's obviously, I didn't even think about that. That's why he's not here today. So enjoy the game. Have a great weekend, and we will talk to you Monday on IB Nation Sports Talk.